Hey, Money Multipliers. Welcome back to another episode of the Money Multiplier podcast. I'm your host, Hannah Kessler, and we ask ourselves, do our dollars make sense? So in this episode today, I am joined here by the one and only Mr. Chris Naugle. And Chris, before you chime in, let me tell you how I talk about you when I'm going out and I'm traveling and speaking on stage. Because at the start of every single conversation that I have with people, for instance, I was just in Gary, Indiana. This week I'm going to Orlando for another event. And I always hold up mapping out the millionaire mystery. I talk a lot about my father, but then there's also another author on there, Chris Naugle. And I say, y'all may know Chris Naugle very well, very active in the real estate space, actually had a show on HGTV at one point. And if you're not following Chris Naugle, go out there on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. He's always doing content and posting out free education. So Chris, Naugle, go follow him. And that's what I say. But
I
hey,
love it. I love it. Thank you so much for that.
man. So Chris, I know you're in your new studio setup and everything. It looks really, really nice.
Thank you. Yeah, no, we've been out here a couple times. We filmed a really cool YouTube for What Now, What Next. It was how to get all the money back for every cyber truck you ever buy, drive, and own, but then also how to get other people to pay for your cyber truck to your bank. And what we did is we had a guy who has a cyber truck bring it over. We were supposed to race the Porsche versus the cyber truck, but it was pouring rain, so we put that off to another day. But we did a whole bunch of funny stuff with the two cars, and then we showed them the math of the infinite banking concepts. And I mean, little did I know, Cybertrucks rent for $550 a day on Turo. So literally, you could make your monthly payment on that Turo back to your banking system by renting it 3.64 days a month. And it would only take 204 days of renting it to get all the money back, which is 112,000. And boy, there's no better way to do it than in your own private bank.
No, and that's powerful. And if you guys are not checking out that whole series of What Now, What Next, that's probably my favorite series that you do, Chris, just me personally over here.
I
But
like them too.
that really ties great into what I want to talk about is, just the evolution of money management, where we're headed, especially right now, just talking about the future of money and how it's evolving. So I guess I want to ask you this question to kind of start it off. What are like the differences when you were a young lad? You had your skate shop, you had your clothing brand and different things. What have been some of the differences that you're seeing from then to where we're at now in the future of money management? I mean, are people being more awakened? Are they being scarce? And are they hoarding their dollars? I mean, what have you been seeing from your experience?
So yeah, we're gonna have to take a trip back to memory lane on that. I mean, we're going back. I started those shops in 1994, and all I can tell you is, like the most all the years, but let's just talk about the late 90s, early 2000s. In my shop, the transactions were primarily they were cash, and a lot of parents would come in and buy a skateboard for their kids and write a check. So I remember it vividly. Like, we did a ton of cash deposits and we did a ton of checks. But also, this is kind of funny, and there might be a lot of people listening to this that aren't even old enough to remember this. When UPS, FedEx was a brand new thing, but when UPS brought us boxes, we literally paid for some of the UPS boxes in cash. Can you imagine that? UPS drivers walking around with thousands and thousands of dollars of greenbacks in their pockets. So those are the first things that I recall as being different. And people were more aware of their money. It just seemed like parents specifically were more aware. And it also seemed, like the parents were instilling in the children, okay, if you want that skateboard, you're going to have to do your chores. You're going to have to do this. You're going to have to. I lived out in a town called Lockport, which was bordered by a lot of farming. And a lot of the kids that would come in, their parents were farmers. So they would say, okay, well, next week, if you help me do this, or clean the cows or the horse stalls or do this, you'll be able to afford that skateboard. So it was just an amazing time, but it was a very different time. I think today people are very aloof about money. We've gone to this digital side, and I know everybody's like, "Oh, when the dollar goes digital," folks, like it will be no different than it is today. You pay for everything with a credit card. You transfer everything with Venmo and all these stupid apps that move money back and forth. Like the only difference between a digital world, completely digital dollar, and what you do today is your money will clear instantaneously, but you don't even know your money doesn't clear instantaneously. When you do a Venmo, a PayPal, gosh, I'm trying to think of all of them, but there's so many of them now. When you do that, your money doesn't clear instantly, so there's kind of a hold on money, and until it clears the system, then that money's not. But the digital dollar or the digital world would clear your dollars instantaneously, just like the blockchain and crypto does.
I agree. I agree. And what about like digital wallets? Okay. When I think of digital wallets, I think about it a lot like in the crypto world. But even like if you have an Apple iPhone, you have your digital wallet on there too. I mean, you're an Apple user. I know you see that too. And
I
even my
fight it.
mama, you fight it.
I do. Like the Apple Pay thing is what you're referring to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got caught not long ago. I was out. I can't remember what I was doing, and I forgot my wallet. My wife sent me out for something. I forgot to bring my wallet, and I kind of panicked when I got there. I'm like, and I said it super silly. Oh, it was the pharmacy for Vivi's meds, and I said it super silly. I'm said, "Do you accept Apple Pay?" And they're like, "Of course." And I'm like, can you show me how I get to pay? How can I pay with this? I just don't use it a lot, but like I just grabbed my phone and right there on the front page is the wallet, and that's where it all is. So I've gotten a little better, not much, but it is. It's you talk about digital wallets, there's your digital wallet. It will
Yep.
be no different than that.
Yep.
None. And don't lose your password.
And true. That's funny. But too, people are nervous, especially in the older generations right now. I think I'm a little different because I have that Gen Z millennial mindset, but people are nervous about the control of the money, and I think the security if we go into that 100% digital age. Do you agree with that? Do you think there's going to be a total shift that the government's going to make us go fully over? And I know we don't have a fortune ball in front of us. We don't really know, but are you seeing it trending in that direction?
It won't be an instant thing. It's just like everything else. I mean, we all should have learned, so few of us did, but we all should have learned a whole lot during the pandemic about how the government gets us to change our mindset and change our actions around things. And they do it through fear. So I'm not going to go deep into that, but just kind of think about what happened during the pandemic. And now think of the fear that that still has in people and how they react and what they do. And, I still see people walking outside with a mask on, to each
Oh,
their own, but like that would never ever be if it wasn't for the pandemic. So with the digital dollar, I think what they'll do is it'll be a slow go. I mean, a lot of people don't even know that Fed now was put in place last year. That's that instant clearing, and it was tested through many banks, but nobody really remembered it outside of seeing it on CNN or whatever channel you decide to watch, and then it was gone. So I agree. I'm a little older, so being 47, I do think the digital dollar would give the government controls that they should never have over us. And I think it will be probably a good 10 to 20 years, depending on who's in office. Let's preface who's in office will determine how fast this happens, where they will be able to control just about everything. They'll be able to control what we eat. I mean, food rations. I mean, you all saw Hunger Games, and you don't even need to go to Hunger Games. You can, because that's just a movie. You can go to other countries and see what happened with food rations. They could control where you travel to. You
yeah.
got yourself in trouble or something, or you didn't pay your taxes, and they could just freeze your monies just like that. And not that they can't now. So a lot of you are thinking, or the younger folks would be like, wait, they can do that now. Absolutely. But see, the older generations think that that's like a new thing because that back in the day would never happen, but now it can. Your accounts can be completely frozen. Matter of fact, what a lot of people don't know about traditional bank accounts is realistically, I'm not saying this is ever going to happen, and I'm not trying to instill fear, but the government could take your money and use it for what they want. They could,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they're not going to. But I'm just saying, like, we sign those rights over. We give up control when we open a bank account. You just don't read the fine print.
Yeah. And controlling everywhere. And definitely COVID times, you know this, Chris. I mean, I thought we were going to be going down in our business during the COVID times, but we just were doubling and doubling more and more because
Hmm.
people are being enlightened in what the government will do to their people, especially traveling. We would go down to the Cayman Islands every year. We spend a month down there in October. We didn't go these past few years because we would fly into the Cayman Islands. They would put an ankle brace on you and you had to stay indoors, I think, for 2 weeks before you can go out and mingle with people and different things. And I said,
Wow.
I'm not doing it. I don't want to do that because I want to control what I do with my life and my free time, not what you want me to do because of this virus that's going around. Pardon. So
I could care less. I mean, it's stupid. I'm not vaxxed, and I fought that tooth and nail.
yeah. Now, okay, so in the digital world too, okay, we talk a lot about diversify, which I think is very, very important. And that's one thing that I'm doing a lot here recently, like within my own investments. I'm very heavy into real estate, but then, I've been kind of doing some funds that are backed up by bonds, holding some gold and silver. I want you to talk to me a little bit about what you're doing in your crypto portfolio. Are you still putting those weekly payments into it? And are you, I call it playing with it, pardon again, but are you still doing that? Or talk to me about the crypto world and where you kind of see that going?
It's kind of a pretty timely, funny conversation because yes, I am, but I'm not right now because in Coinbase, which is where I traded, you have to link your bank account to Coinbase, and every once in a while you lose that connection. You need to go back in, and it's using one of those digital dollar thingamajiggers, and I can't figure out how to do it. So I haven't relinked my account. But yes, so what I was doing. Listen, I know Bitcoin probably will be around for a long time. I know it's probably going to end up being a good investment in the next 10 years, let's just say, because of the finite amount and all the things and the halving and everything else. But the whole idea here is just call me a Warren Buffett fan, call me old school investor where I really focus on fundamentals. There are no fundamentals around Bitcoin. There's no intrinsic value. There's nothing backing it. It's kind of like fiat money. Okay. Bitcoin is only worth what somebody will pay for it. There is
Mhm.
no substance behind it outside of, oh, there's a finite amount. There's no buildings, there's no bonds, there's no bank accounts or anything really tangible behind what you're buying. So therefore, Bitcoin will never be for me a long hold. But here's what I like about Bitcoin. Bitcoin and the stock market are supposed to be, disconnected. They're not supposed to be correlated. They're supposed to be non-correlated, but they are not. They're like two peas in a pod, if you will. When the stock market goes down, Bitcoin goes down, or when Bitcoin goes down, stock market goes down, vice versa. When the stock market goes up, Bitcoin goes up. Look at Bitcoin today. I bet you it's up and it's up and the stock market's up. So they're correlated. They're traveling at the same they're traveling on the same journey. So that for that matter, like I could buy stocks, which I own no stocks right now, just to be very clear, zero stocks. But if I were to decide, do I want Bitcoin or do I want stocks? I'd buy stocks because I would buy stocks of companies I know, like, and understand because they have tangible value. They have fundamental value. Although the fundamentals right now, you might as well throw them out the window with the way stocks are priced. But I was every week buying Bitcoin and Ethereum. And what I would do nonchalantly, no real science behind this, is I would just buy it every week, dollar cost average into it. And then I would watch, and it's not hard. You can be on social media, you can be anywhere. And, everybody starts talking about how Bitcoin's going up and up and up. And then when it gets to what I feel is a high price, and listen, like that high price back, I've been doing this a long time, was 24 grand I got out. And then recently we hit 50s. Like I was out, like I just sell it. And then I just keep buying it when it goes down the other side. Then I sell it. And I got another guy who's got a really, really good strategy with Bitcoin. He buys it Monday and sells it Friday. Not hard, right? Buys it Monday and sells it Friday. I don't need to tell you what that is. This isn't an investment advice, but just look at the charts. Look at Mondays and look at Fridays, and then you can make your own assumption.
Yeah, no, true. And why do you think crypto came on the rage? Is it because people wanted that decentralized currency? I know, like, my generation over here, it was the big, oh, you can become a millionaire overnight and that whole mindset, right? But people who truly are in this, because we know some very talented intellectual people who are in the crypto space buying and selling all day long. Is it because it is decentralized and that's why folks were flocking to it?
Yeah, I mean, I read the book and I'd recommend this book to everybody. It's called Inventing Bitcoin. It's a really good beginner's guide to understanding what problem Bitcoin solves. Because that's really what you're doing when you're looking at these different cryptos. Really, always focus on what problem does it solve. You got blockchain, which is fairly simple to understand, although they definitely complicate it, but it's pretty simple. It's like a ledger, but a ledger that you can't go back and erase prior things. So there's an eternal record of every single transaction on blockchain. And then you got things like Bitcoin and Ethereum. And you just have to understand the use for those particular cryptos. And Bitcoin has a very unique use. And yes, you would mention decentralized. That's probably the sole reason people like it. It is decentralized. It is not part of the government. It is not well, it's regulated by the government, but it isn't really in the control of the Fed or the government, or so we think. Now,
Yeah.
I've heard horror stories. I've heard stories of their Bitcoin accounts getting locked, their wallets getting shut down, and that was all by the government. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen to you, but like these were people that got themselves in trouble and then their accounts got frozen. So I don't know, is it really decentralized or is it just decentralized in our minds and then in the real world, well, they can regulate it just like they do everything else.
Yeah, yeah. And I think where we're headed right now is, yeah, we could see a world. I don't know when it's going to happen, even if it will be in my lifetime, maybe it will be, but with the whole Fed now and having 100% digital currency, I mean, it could go there. But I always go back to I can control what I can control, and that's why I store a bunch of my wealth inside of my whole life insurance policies, because it has sustained the test of time. It's guarantees. It's a private contract, no affiliation with what's going on in the government world, the political environments, the market environment, whatever. And that's when, the big talk about like inflation nowadays, especially, with all the candidates talking, right? I mean, people are always asking, how are we going to beat inflation? Well, how I'm going to keep beating inflation is by keep stuffing and storing a boatload of more money inside of my policies. That's just what I'm going to do, get uninterrupted compounding. So let me ask you this question. What specific tools are you using right now to manage your personal finance?
The same thing you are. I mean, I put a significant portion of my savings through my banking system, through specially designed whole life policies. There's no secret. Everything from all of these cars to this studio I'm in, to the copy machine in the office, to the rental we just bought. I even have to all the lending I do. All of that is done through my banking system. I just changed one thing, and that's where my money goes first. The only thing outside of that that I would say I do have is I have a brokerage account at Schwab that enables me to buy treasury bonds. And because I'm very versed and I understand treasury bonds and how they're impacted by interest rates very well. So it allows me to do the old Warren Buffett, buy low, sell high. When interest rates go up, the price of the bonds goes down. When interest rates go down, the price of the bonds goes up. That's a pretty fifth grade level kind of analogy for me to follow. And it's like clockwork. So I own lots of long-term treasuries. I own some short-term treasuries because I just I watch the banks. Now that I'm my own banker, I just mimic what banks do. And one of the things I always saw banks that I could never fully understand until, about a decade ago when I really pinpointed it, like how do banks offer CDs with guaranteed rates for a term of time? And then I'm like, oh my God, duh. They're just going to the government and they're just buying some treasury bills or treasury bonds for the same duration of the CD. So, oh, you want to get a 6-month CD? Great, it pays 5%. So what's the bank doing? The bank's going and buying a 6-month T-bill that is guaranteed and or that has a term of time of 6 months that has a fixed rate of probably 5.5, and the bank's making a spread, and that's all the bank's doing. They're always making a spread. So when you really just want to understand what someone like myself or Hannah does with our money, just look at what did the banks do. What are the
Mhm.
banks doing with their tier one capital? They're buying treasury bonds and whole life insurance. They call it BOLI, bank owned life insurance. What are banks doing every single day with your deposits? They're lending that money out with collateral in most cases. So what am I doing with the money that I don't move through the different things that I need in my life? I lend it out. And I
Yep.
lend it out at a rate of 12 to 15%, first lien position with personal guarantees. I mean, this isn't very hard. And
No.
and
No.
and I can't understand sometimes why people like try to complicate what it is we do. We do the exact same thing your bank does. You went into your bank the other day, didn't you? And you took out that loan for that car. Great. Well, I do the same thing. When I want to buy a car, I take a loan from my bank and I buy the car, and then I make car payments just like you do. Yes, I do make car payments, but the car payments go back to my bank, which means I lose no liquidity of my money because I have full control of my money, and I don't miss anything. Oh, and the interest that I pay on the car loan, because you're paying interest to your bank on that car loan, I pay my bank the same interest rate, except for I keep all the interest. That's the
Yes.
only difference.
And I think what it is, actually, my episode last week, I went on a whole rant. I had some rants and some thoughts and opinions that I just need to get off my chest. And I think the biggest thing, it's not hard, but it's putting in the work to track and
Yes.
manage what you're doing. And nobody wants to put in the work, because I get it. You're busy. You have your personal life going on, your health, your family and children that you need to take care of. But hey, if you're not going to make this a priority, there's nobody else who's going to make it a priority to you as well. And where I came in, that question that I asked you, Chris, I don't even think we've had this conversation. Do you know the app called Rocket Money?
Yeah.
Love that app. I tell all of my friends. My brother just told me that he started using it. And I'm like, y'all, you guys don't have to spend the time to track all of this stuff, because they're in our day and age, there's these great tools that are out there. I pay this app $5 a month, has all of my credit cards, my business and personal accounts hooked up to it. And I know how much I'm keeping, where my money's going, and these different subscriptions that I'm spending on that I probably don't even know I'm spending it on. Now, I know, Chris, you're in a different playing field because you got employees, you got your bookkeeper. But, for us people over here who are like a sole person, LLC, just doing it, no employees, I highly, highly recommend that app. Just need to track your stats. And then you know what Pop says from there? Track your stats and then report them to others, because then that's where you'll see that it'll really grow at.
No, I love that. I love, there is in today's world, we'll call it the digital world, that so many folks want to avoid. I mean, it has provided lots of conveniences like that. I mean, heck, they're using AI to make all that stuff easier. There's links between different accounts so that you don't need to do the work yourself. If you do a private loan on privatemoneyclub.com, enter it into a site, have it create a separate bank account for that particular loan. We call them segregated accounts. Have all the interest go into this account, link it back to one of these apps, and now all of a sudden, like, it tracks it for you. That's all you need to do. And also then people are like, yeah, well, what if someone didn't pay? I wouldn't know what to do. Get yourself an attorney. They don't charge you unless you need them. And if you do need them, charge the person you lent the money to, charge the borrower. I mean, those are some of the things. But let me go back to what you said, which is critical. You had mentioned people are so busy being busy, and they are. And let's remove the children and everything out. But people are busy, side hustles, their jobs, and all sorts of things. And because we get so busy, I almost sometimes feel like it's a fixed game. Because we're so busy being busy, we aren't busy working on our finances, working on our wealth, and making our money work for us. But really, what is money supposed to be doing for us in life? Isn't it supposed to buy back our time?
Mhm.
In other words, as you make more money, if you look at anyone's transition, that is gone from, like, I grew up lower middle class. So, like, you could just use me. You look at my transition straight to where I'm at today. And what are some of the things that I've done with money as I've made more in my money? And also as I've made more, but as my money working for me has made for me. My money working for me is unique because all of you, your money, if you learn how to make it work for you, it works 24/7, which is more than you can work. So therefore, your money's just more efficient working for you than you can be working for money. But like I'll give you an example. There was I always used to people, I mowed my lawn. Like let's start with the basics. And I did this for a long, long time. And I would even convince myself that I love the smell of grass and I love doing it because I get a tan and all these things. But I will tell you this, the second I had the money to pay somebody to mow my lawn, I did. And then all of a sudden I realized, wow, that just bought me back. I mean, depending on what house it was, an hour, maybe an hour and a half at the one house. It bought me back an hour and a half. And that hour and a half enabled me to go spend more time with my family, go skateboarding, at the park, do things that I like to do. Where before I was busy being busy mowing my lawn, busy being busy doing my landscaping, busy being busy closing my pool or opening my pool. It's just like, I know those seem like simple little things, but money enables you to buy back your time. And when your money's working for you, it enables you to do that faster and more efficiently. And no one's ever taught that. We're just
No.
taught to go out there and work harder, get the degree, put in the hours, the hustle, I hate the word hustle. Like, you don't want to hustle. Don't sit there and like be excited that you're hustling. You don't want to be hustling Monday through Sunday. Let's be honest with ourselves. You want to be on a beach. You want to be out with your kids. You want to be playing in the backyard and traveling around with your kids. You don't want to be busy hustling.
Cool.
So, like, I just think that's what should be taught is like, let's get to a point where we save the laws of wealth. We save 10% or more of what we make gross. We take that money and then we send that money to work for us in things. And then we protect that money by only investing in things we know, like, and understand. And then we don't get greedy and we be realistic with what our money should be making us instead of thinking, oh, well, if I do this and it hits, I'm going to be a millionaire, or you're going to be poor. Like,
Hmm.
it's roulette. Yeah, everybody's sitting around that roulette table, like red and black. You can be wealthy. If it hits, it's only 50-50 odds. Wrong. There's a green. And just when you think it's going to hit your number, I don't know why it just hits the green. So it's like, that's investing, folks. So if you just be realistic, then that doesn't happen. So,
Yeah.
but more people aren't taught this. No one's really taught this.
No, no. And then from there, a hurdle that I see people get to is when they are producing more money that comes in, that they will then go out and create more expenses to meet that income. So they're always in that rat race going over and over and over again. And Nelson Nash calls that Parkinson's law, right? And that's one
Yep.
of the behaviors that we need to overcome. So I also think, Chris, to comment on what you just mentioned too, the most socially accepted form of addiction, I think, is workaholics, right? We have such a toxic workaholic mentality here in the United States. And that's something that I really try to be better on, just even in my own life. And you and Chris, we're probably preaching to ourselves right now because you and I are the type of people that we go day in and day out when the sun comes up, the sun goes down, and then our friends and our family can get mad at us, right? But we love what we do, and we find such a passion to keep supporting and helping people. But it's a form of addiction. Workaholism, I think that's how you pronounce it. That is a form of addiction, and we need to overcome that. And how we do that is by letting your money work for you. I just shared on this podcast how I was able to spend a week with my mother doing a mother's daughter trip over there in California for a whole week. I couldn't do that if I was pinned down having to trade my hours for money and I have to go into the office from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, right? I mean, that's really all that we want. Yeah, people think that they want more money. No, you just want more time for yourself and your family. That's the biggest one.
It is. That's what we're all after is more time. But what we do is the exact opposite.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And your thoughts lead to your actions, and your actions lead to the change and the results that you need. So let me kind of pivot this. Let me talk to you about, you may not know all of this, but I just kind of want to ask you and what your thoughts are about the regulatory challenges and some of the considerations that, the government or the Fed has to decide on if we do go to a digital currency. Like, do you think there's going to be some impact to like the users and businesses if we do go to like a digital currency altogether?
No, not initially. I think it'll be business as usual, except for people won't take cash. But you realize, like I'm not going to use the name of the bank, but I use a bank, a commercial bank for some of our business stuff. And you realize that they charge for cash deposits over a certain amount. They charge you to make a cash deposit in the bank. So there's stuff like that going on that really makes you kind of wonder what the heck, is going on. But I mean, there's businesses that don't take cash. I've been to a bunch of businesses that they just don't accept cash anymore. And a lot of times, if you give some businesses cash, they can't even make change. So like, it's just some of these things are really, really important to realize regarding digital currency, because we're already living a digital world. So I don't think anything would really change immediately. I think as time went on, they would just take more, little inch here, little inch there, time here, time there. They would just keep taking more things from us because they could.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, and my last and little question for you too is that, what are some of your resources when you want to stay in tune? Because the big word that people like to use is fake news, which I kind of love that word, to be quite frank with all of y'all. But what are the tools and resources that you're going to just to stay up to date with what's going on in the economy? Are you going to the Federal Reserve site? Are you going to Yahoo Finance? I mean, what are some of those platforms that you're listening to? And let me say this too. I think it's very important to gather both sides and make your own conclusion for yourself. But can you give us some resources on what you're doing to be in the know of what's going on?
Sure. Well, I mean, let me start by telling you where I don't get my information. I don't get my information from CNN, CNBC, MSN, Fox News, or any of them. N- I might get headlines from them to kind of rant about, but that isn't how I learn or get, knowledgeable about something. Books are probably the best source. I mean, books, YouTube. YouTube's got some great videos on things, and you can find credible like YouTube producers that aren't full of crap, that actually literally have done what we are trying to learn about. I also subscribe to a lot of economist websites and also their newsletters, and that's been tremendous for me. I will say that's probably been the most consistent source of data and information that you can't get anywhere, that is coming right from an economist. Now, the only thing you got to be careful with economists is you can't just follow one economist. You got to follow several, because they have different viewpoints. One might be a gold bug, the other might be a treasury bug, the other might just be like, oh, stocks are the way to go. And then what I do is I look out there, I say, who's doing the best in these categories, like stocks. Warren Buffett's a good one. Warren Buffett just offloaded a whole bunch of stock from Bank of America and Apple and many others. So like, if anyone was smart and watching, like, go on and find out, why did he unload it? And it's very simple. He feels we're at a high point, and there's big opportunities coming, which means the stock market's going down. So shouldn't that just tell you there's one point? I mentioned books, but I read a lot of books and audiobooks, and I read them from authors like Ray Dalio, and I've read all Warren's books. And, I know some of you aren't going to like me saying this, but back in the day, I used to read a lot of Donald Trump's books, business books. And I've just gathered lots of information that I could have never gotten anywhere else if I wasn't reading their books. And then a lot of books have white papers that are put out, so the authors will do white papers after. So white paper is another really good source. So there's data everywhere. But again, we're so busy being busy that we don't have time to go in and look at the data. When you just just carve out an hour a day and just use that hour a day. That's good. That's when you're going to read your white papers. I get them in an email. I print them out. I take them home. Once Vivi goes to bed, I go down, I get a snack or make a protein shake, and I read through my white papers. It takes me sometimes 10 minutes, sometimes a half hour, but I get through them, maybe even take them to bed and read them.
Yeah, yeah, this is good, powerful. Well, man, I appreciate you, and I'm going to see you next week. And in about a little less than a month, we have the Money Multiplier Mastermind that's coming up. I'm so excited. We got a lot of great content there. And Chris, where can people find you?
No, it's easy. Just go to Google. You may or may not have heard about it. It's kind of new, but it's Google, and then just type in my name, Chris, Naugle. If you want my YouTube channel, it's just add the in front of Chris Naugle, and you'll find me.
And go subscribe to Chris's YouTube channel, like his videos, give him 5 stars. I mean, he puts his heart and soul into this stuff. I mean, you should really see what Chris is doing on the back end, really going hard at this. So I appreciate you for spending some time with me. I will see you
Absolutely.
very soon. For y'all who have not signed up for the mastermind, if you go to our website, themoneymultiplier.com, it's right there on the home page, right at the top. You can go and secure some tickets there. We have, I think, like 2 VIP tickets left, and then some of our GA tickets are still on there. And let's just have some fun. We got a game show that's gonna happen. We got some home office officials that are coming down, and we just got 2 days of jam-packed advanced topics for everybody. So, Chris, thank you for everything. Thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, thank you. It's been an honor.
All right,
Look
until
forward to
next.
seeing you out in Indy next week.
Yeah, man. Until next time, Money Multipliers. I'll see you next week. Bye, y'all.